Hello. Today I would like to talk with you about something which is extremely important in my life and also in the life of many other people, and that is the presence of the angels and the whole angelic world. Now, in all religions, we know that angels are always omnipresent from the moment that we stepped on this planet. There has been also always the protection and the presence of angels. And yet, strangely, we don't know much about this incredible force which is supporting us, which is giving us so much insights when we learn to connect with them. They do their work anyway, even if we don't connect with them, but we have this possibility to connect better with the angelic world and to be able to incorporate it in our everyday life. And I like to speak about my experiences, how I have every time been saved when I almost died. I had 4 near death experiences, and I'm very grateful that every time the angels have saved my life and have given me an enormous amount of insights in how I could heal myself or where I had to go next in my life, which steps were important for my missions, how I could understand the world around me better, how I could understand Mother Nature, the kingdom also of the animals better, how I could understand the whole universe and planetary systems better, and everything which puzzles us in our lives, because we come here and no one is giving us a manual how matters really work down here on this planet. And it's a complicated planet, it's a complicated species, and yet we have this incredible, wonderful field of knowledge, energy, to which the angels obviously are also connected and can give us so much feedback when we have lost our way, when we don't understand matters. Because you know what, after all, we are so limited in our brain power, in our body power, and yet we have access to be so much more in contact with those higher fields of knowledge, energy, and intelligence so that we can grow, because we come here like puppets, so to say, and most people are not aware of this incredible pathways which are out there for us, in which we can grow a lot faster, in which we can have access to a lot more intelligence, in which we can have access to things we can't even imagine right now. So I would like to make a series about what the angels have been teaching me over the years, because it's so much that I have to start somewhere. I have received, about healing myself many times, wonderful messages which I like to share, but also how to understand how Mother Nature works and, the kingdom of animals, and how we people can be also much more refined and subtle in our communication channels, because we people are so much forced through the material and consumer related society which keeps imposing itself on us, that we barely have any time to look beyond the illusions, what is really important. And what is really important is that we have more respect towards life itself. If we see how many millions of people are being killed all over the planet for all kinds of reasons, you start to wonder, where is respect for life itself? Because when you receive life, that is something that you need to cherish, that you need to nourish, that you need to respect. And yet, there are permanently people who somehow disrespect lives of others, where killing, where there are wars, where there are conflicts, and it has been like this for a very long time. And we people have to understand better what is behind this conflict that permanently people are looking for. Even when you watch TV, 80% of it is related on this strange um, habit of the species that they permanently are busy with that. You permanently see either, police series or killings or murder stories, or it's almost all, 80% related on a strange way in showing we don't necessarily respect life. We are always busy with that. And this is a very strange thing which our species is doing all the time. And I believe, the angels can help us to respect life a lot better and to be busy with why are we here as a species? There is a reason for this. This is like a huge experiment and we don't understand anything about it, which doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? You come to a certain place, you do your thing without actually knowing what you're doing, and you leave without actually knowing where you're going. So it's pretty much all not making sense in this particular way. And yet, there are ways, again, when you start to make connections with those um, beings, let me call them beings, which are more intelligent than we are, which do have an overview, which we totally lost. They know where we're coming from, where we are right now in our, let's say, awareness levels, in our levels as a species of how much we have grown, and they know where we could be heading. Now, where we could be heading is a lot of different pathways. This is where our free will always is there, because the angels always respect that we have free will, and yet they also give us these pathways to grow faster, to be able to heal ourselves, to be able to scan other people and see how genuine are they, to be able to communicate with the world of animals or the whole world around us, because we have been put here together so that we respect also our planet and we learn to watch for the signals. Just like trees, whenever something happens in the universe or in other planetary systems, you see that animals and also our whole kingdom of nature is able to reflect and is able to catch on a very subtle level these signals which the universe is giving us. It's only us people who somehow are losing a lot of these abilities, and no one can blame us too much, because it is, very hard in our society where we're all the time being pushed by this hysteric mass industry into becoming beings that we actually have not normally been born to be. We have not been born to be just here kind of a slave to consumer society and be pushed all the time and obliged to do things which really doesn't make any sense. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to be pushed every year to buy new things and, to be imposed, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. We're here as beings to also grow on this planet and really understand what our personal missions are, but also our missions as a species. There is a purpose for all this. And yet, very few people understand what life is all about. If you ask them, why did you come here to this planet? What is it that you are hoping to learn? What is it that you're hoping to take with you on your next journey? Most people don't have an answer. That is because we are not brought up to think in such a way that we are coming here to learn many skills so that we're ready for our next journey. It's the same like if you go to another country, let's say, you have in your mind, I want to go to study there, I would like to maybe work there, I like to get some experiences out of this new country. I'm going there with the hope that, this or that could get better for me. You make a plan somehow. You hope to get, when you go to that country, whatever you have set out to get. The same is when you come to a planet. You see, people always still think, too many of the people, that there is only life on this planet. That's absolutely not true. There are millions of stars out there. There is life condition in other ways, maybe not totally similar to our life conditions here, but for sure there is also life on other planets. And you can choose somehow to do certain things here so that you prepare yourself, that you get, let's say, a whole skill set of things that you can take with you in your suitcase to a next journey and to a next planet. You've got to, consider the fact that you're not just here like a kind of a slave to, a consumer related hysteric society just pushing you to do all kinds of things that you don't necessarily want to do. And at the end of the story, you leave this planet and that was it. No, life certainly is worth a lot more and has these possibilities that you can step out of this imprisonment. It's almost really an imprisonment, and that you have to learn you're a free spirit, you're the boss of your life, no one else, and you make connection with those higher intelligence of the angels, and you ask them to help you and guide you. Because when you are out of touch, even with your own soul or body, it's not so easy then to learn to listen to those, let's say, beings which are there in order to protect you, but also to guide you when you ask their guidance. In the next series, I will explain you in which ways you can connect much better with the angelic worlds. That you should also be aware that they also have a lot of different hierarchy. You have, of course, the angels which protect you, your guardian angels, and you have a lot of steps with the different angels all the way up to those which are on the highest realms. Now, we also have angels that have stepped away of the plan of God, which, we call the fallen angels. You have those as well. So you have to be aware and be able to scan and to know how to connect yourself with the good angels. I remember when I got my first huge accident, and I was for many months in a big desperation in the hospital, more than 8 months, and I could barely move, and I really thought, this is it, this is the end of the story. Um, I will also later explain how all these near-death experiences were, because all four were very different. But I was so grateful when I felt so supported by the angels, because I felt their presence, their incredible love and incredible softness, and uplifting me, uplifting my soul, and also giving me a lot of practical information. Whilst the doctors were telling me, well, you will, probably die, or they were quite, negative in their messages. At the same time, the angels said, no, you will pull through this, and they gave me these wonderful, also even practical things, like, for my brain, after my severe brain concussion, what I had to do in terms of exercises to bring both brain sides back in connection with each other, and how to get my breathing back again, how to get also how to get out of the wheelchair, which things to really do, so that I would get back the strength in my body and the faith. And I wish that everybody would uh, be able to see that the guardian angels are our very, very best friends, because they're always there and we really receive unconditional love from them. not like with people whereby things are very often conditional. No, with them you have this incredible presence of being connected also through them, also with Jesus and with the divinity, but especially this incredible feeling like a universal family, like you can just do anything you want, and they are kind of always forgiving and always giving you a second chance. And there were so many times that I thought, wow, this is so incredible. If we could just learn a fraction of them about universal love, we people are so often stuck, and that includes me as well, that if someone does something to us, we get into our anger, we don't want to see this person anymore, we get stuck in our energies, we get stuck in our minds, we don't want to give people a second chance, let's say. And what I have learned from the angels is it's incredible this amount of love that they have, that every time, whatever we do, and Jesus has, of course, this wonderful love as well, you always have this feeling you can come and you're embraced again, and you're our child, and we forgive you, and you have a new chance, and don't worry. And this feeling is wonderful because we all need this feeling of being embraced by something higher than ourselves, and that we can let go sometimes of all these little worries we have. And sometimes we make such a drama of small things when at the end of the day, in the big picture, it doesn't mean that much. And so many times I've learned also from the angels, how to, in prayer, really cleanse myself of negative thoughts, how to cleanse the body also of negativity. They've been teaching, many years also, how to be able to really go to places where the energies are very high, so that you connect with places which are, let's say, like high in voltage, and you can kind of recharge yourself. It really makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I went to these wonderful places. They were often out in nature, etc. And you feel so recharged. I also went to many monasteries, um, and I find it wonderful to see in what ways, really, with from small practical things to big questions in our lives, like in which country do I go, or do I continue, yes or no, with this study or with this partner. Or once you learn to be guided and have faith in those who guide you, you can really make great steps forwards. Now, having said that, we all people, have the tendency, and so do I, to think, well, but we know it all better. And then we, disconnect. It's almost like you're disconnecting from like a kind of, um, I don't want to say supercomputer, because obviously, that's not respectful, but just in terms of people understanding that when you're yourself a very small little computer, very limited, and you have this access to this huge superpower, whereby you get so much information, you're being downloaded with things that you find mind-boggling, and your small little brain can't even cope with it. Um, this access we have, and yet we people have this tendency that we always disconnect. I've done it many times, and then I dropped it again in my worldly little problems and this and that and illness and worries. And yet, then I do have to wake up again and remember, and also help others to wake up and remember. We have this access at all times to reconnect with Jesus, who is also this super intelligence, superpower, super being. And it's again like just plugging yourself into a system, like you're plugging yourself through electricity into the wall, or if you want to say into this superpower computer, whatever. And your life just totally changes. You just feel like, whoa, why didn't I think of this before? Or Why am I making such a drama out of something which, at the end of the day, if I really have a kind of a view from another perspective, looking at myself from another planet almost, I'm like feeling, okay, this is laughable that I even made issues about this problem, so to say. And what I have seen very often as well is the angels give us so many tools. I call this the zooming in and zooming out technique, because very often when you learn to zoom out, and you look from a very high perspective, then you suddenly realize that things are quite different than we people, again, with our really small little brain, make it to be. The same is for zooming in. When you're very ill, the angels so often, I mean, before I even got cancer, they showed me exactly where the cancer is. I don't need MRIs and scans. I see everything, and people all have this ability that they can see. I see it in animals, I see it in people, when, of course, I tune in. Um, so, we have these incredible skills that we can get through connecting ourselves with those superpowers. And my plea is to people, use it. And whenever you disconnect, it's simple. You just put the plug back in. You make contact, and we will speak next time about how to make contact, because there are different ways of praying, there are different ways of meditation, and you can feel when you really can uplift to a high enough level that your frequencies are high enough that you step onto another floor, so to say, whereby it's easier to plug in. Because if you stay in your own little, let's say, brain, and are always praying, let's say, about the same things, and it's amazing how often people are praying about, yeah, how shall we say this? Things that I don't believe personally that Jesus or the angels are going to listen to prayers that are not in conformity with the rules that the universe has. There are rules out there, I can tell you that for sure. I've seen that, in my near death experiences. And they're totally different rules than we people have made on this planet. So all these rules that people have, like praying for, oh, I want to win the lottery and please give me this or that, everything which is in material sense, that's not something which is relating to those rules. Yes, you can pray for better health or abundance, and then you allow the universe to bring you what at that moment you need. But when you make it very small and limited, um, things are scanned, things are shifted, your message doesn't even come true, because it's not in conformity and synchronicity with the rules of the universe. So this is also important to learn, that it's very important to be genuine in your prayers. And also, what the angels will teach us, and Jesus has taught us anyway, but we keep forgetting it, is that whenever we see other people in great problems, like, the angels told me many times, when I see people in an ambulance or when I see people in despair, to always send them this love and light, to just help them at that moment, to just re-bring them in this connection, to plug them back into this superpower, so that they can hopefully make it through that crisis in which they are. Now, if many more people were doing that, instead of everybody sitting on their own little island, if we do apply this rule of loving, our fellow man as Jesus has taught us, we make a better chance to really on this planet be this family which God has meant us to be when He created us. And He has not put in for nothing, the whole realm of angels also with us, because the whole idea was that there would be more of an interchange. The whole idea was that these incredible beings, these light beings, could help us very concretely to uplift us, to help us grow faster, to help us fulfill our missions better. And they can only do certain things like protecting us, and they do this all the time. But if we don't make contact with them more concretely, more directly, there's certain things they're not allowed to do, like intervening in certain decisions we make, which are maybe totally wrong. However, once we do learn to have this connection with this superpower powers, then we can on a daily basis ask, what can we do? And then learn to listen, because this is also a skill you need to learn, because the angels, they talk in very subtle languages, which are more telepathic languages, visual languages, and a combination um, of the kinds of universal languages which we people have forgotten totally. Um, and so you need to also first learn to be able to shut down your chatterbox, your head, which is permanently speaking. And once you learn to fine tune already in your head this chatterbox, then after that you can learn to listen to this very refined, um, yeah, it's very difficult to put a word on it. Because yes, it's a kind of a language that we all have access to, but we all have also forgotten, because it's a combination again of signs, of energies, of visual stimulations. You see very quickly things. Telepathically, you get certain very quick messages, and it's an entire language that we have to relearn again. But there are ways, and I will teach you what I know about how to learn to um, on this higher level be able to download the messages, and then after that to also understand what they mean. It's because again we people have not exercised this a very long time, and so it takes time. It's like really learning a new language. It takes time, but any language can be learned. So also the language which we have to communicate better with angelic worlds, and and obviously, people who already have a lot of meditation and prayer exercise, for them sometimes it's easier to find this connection back. We will also speak about the healing tools that the angels have given us, how we can protect ourselves better, how we can see things in the future of ourselves, of our close people around us, also of events in the world, and how we can together also change if we see that big events are to be happening, which are not necessarily good for us, our species, or our planet, how we can together create a field. And this goes very much into quantum physics, etc. How we can together create a field which is strong enough to make changes happen. Because everything is energy, also our thoughts. And if people together really meditate and put in certain ways, certain thoughts in a certain direction, and they know how to bring frequencies up, they can create a kind of new electrical field whereby they can really transform things. And these are things that we have to learn right now, because we are in our planet in a 5 to 12 situation with a lot of crisis around us. So now the time has come that we relearn again those universal languages which are out there, all the planets, and the angels are also on many planets. So is Jesus. They're omnipresent, they can clone themselves all over. All these matters are important for us to learn, because again we have forgotten it. We are pushed in things we don't want, but we have to push back in a genuine way. Simply just say no to a kind of an industry which has totally gone mad. Greed has no borders anymore. And to say no, we are here for a purpose. Our purpose is not to serve and be a slave. of a mass industry. That's not our purpose. Our purpose is we're here to learn and grow so we are prepared for next journeys, and that we become better beings, that we become uplifted in our intelligence, in our ways to serve God's plan. And God's plan is again not to push us um, in this mass hysteria. But God and Jesus also have said people have free will. So if they want to every time, deviate of the path of divinity, and every time go back into being kind of a slave, then what God and Jesus keep doing is sending us teachers, and we have lots of teachers and lots of saints and very elevated souls that have come here on this planet to every time wake up our minds again, wake up our beings, wake up our souls, and say there are different pathways. You can keep going down and down and down and down to the pathway of hell, indeed, which is what this huge gravity is doing. Our tendency of huge egoism, materialism, consumerism, etc. And we can also uplift towards relearning again the things like God has created this planet, which was meant to be to have universal love and universal empathy for all living beings, the animals, the animal kingdom, the kingdom of nature, and us people, so that we do learn to be like brothers and sisters, because this was initially the blueprint, and we all carry this blueprint in us somewhere. We all carry this blueprint of the world of divinity, and all we need to do is wake it up again. All we need to do is learn ways to uplift our frequencies, to cleanse ourselves of very heavy energies, and to be able to say no to things which are not good for us, for our planet, for our species, etc. And so we are milliards of people out there. It's all about creating a critical mass. And I believe we can do it if we have the right will and we understand where we're coming from, what God's plan has been for us, that we have deviated. Okay, we made some mistakes, we are forgiven. We can always, go a new pathway. And this is also the only way for salvation, because if we continue in the path where we're busy right now, everyone with a bit of intelligence knows that this is a dead end road. Then between now and the next 100 years, what will happen is we will simply destroy ourselves, because with the amounts of aggression between consumer wars and this extraordinary egoism and a lot of dense clouds of very ego-centered presidents who are thinking that they can keep imposing their own will on everybody else. It doesn't need much mathematics to see that you only need to put, a bit more oil on a few fireplaces, and you have what is called, a third world war, um, which is extraordinarily destructive, and loads of innocent people and innocent victims will again go. This we have to prevent, but we never learn from our history, do we? We have this tendency as human species to keep repeating the same mistakes, unless now we do form enough critical mass that we can finally say stop to the destruction and yes to a new construction, a new pathway, liberate ourselves from this slave kind of imposed materialistic world which is killing all our lives, and that we feel liberated, that we are a liberated soul going towards transformation and going towards being ready also if life might maybe one day end here, which is possible, to be able to go to other places, other planets, ready with the skills that we need, with the knowledge that we need, with all the tools we need. Because guess what? One of the reasons why you're here on this planet and no one tells you is to learn to have enough skills in your suitcase so that you will survive on your next journey when you're going somewhere. When you go unprepared, to travel somewhere, you're firstly not knowing where you're going, you don't have your compass, and you don't have all the things in your suitcase, you're simply not going to survive. You do need to do at least the minimum. And yes, the angels and Jesus are there to help us on our journey, but they also expect us to do our very little bit of homework. Because without that, they can't do anything either. We have received free will. If we're not willing to put back that connection in the wall, if we're not willing to have a virus scanner on our whole system, and we allow all the shits, excuse me for the expression, to keep coming into our system, and we have viruses all over the place. If we don't learn the basics of at least knowing how to cleanse our system, our brain system, our body system, and everything is all the time, into our system blocking us, we're also not going to get there. If we're also not willing to learn the basic principles which are in the blueprint of divinity, to respect life, to respect the animal kingdom, to respect Mother Earth, and to respect this whole human species, with all their differences, then we're not going to get there as well. So there are some basic rules which are extraordinarily important, which we need to do. And our homework is as well to learn to forgive, to learn to not be so stagnant in our ways of seeing things, that we learn these techniques of zooming in, zooming out, and everything which has to do with being in touch with the universe and all planetary systems, and not again thinking we're the only ones here and being stuck in our little box. We are a part of a huge, huge, huge system, and it's time we realize that, and that we also know our place. And this human species sometimes has been extraordinarily arrogant. They are, beings out there who are not so happy at all when this species will be going out there, because they're already now saying, goodness, they're so good in destroying everything they're building. Look at their whole history. Are they coming and doing now the same here? Whoa, let's keep them away. So, this is not how we want to have our reputation as a human species. It would be nice if we have another reputation of a loving species, of a species which is able to transform egoism and a lot of destructive tendencies into being a more loving and responsible, especially species. Because guess what? There are species out there who are very responsible and much more loving than our species. So we can definitely learn from them whenever the time is there. But let's first start with step one. Step one is to learn to reconnect again with all these beautiful fields of intelligence and energies and love and light which we have received, and which are there for us to connect with each and every day. So this was the first now part, and later we will speak about much more details of how to connect. So be it.